it's Tomlin from TomlinHarmonicaLessons.com, and today's lesson is all about not playing the root notes over a 12-bar blues. Because I get asked this question a lot by people, which is, how come you're playing something that isn't the root note over a 12-bar blues? So what does that mean, for starters, if you don't know what root notes are, etc.? So 12-bar blues, we have 3 chords in it, and on the harmonica we can play the root notes of those chords. So over the first chord, the 1 chord, we'd be playing a 2 draw. Okay. Over the 4 chord, we'd be playing a 4 blow. And over the 5 chord, we'd be playing a 4 draw. Okay. And I always teach people how to start improvising with the blues progression by playing those root notes, because it's the easiest way to get started. But it's just one strategy. It's not the only way to do it. And this is the problem that a lot of people face, is they do that first lesson, not just from me, from a bunch of other teachers, and they hear about these root notes and they hear that and that's all they hear, and they don't go any further, and then they get confused. So what you need to think about is how you can play over a 12-bar blues without hitting the root notes or without thinking about the root notes and still play an effective solo. So the first example I'm going to give you is of just playing the same phrase over the 12-bar blues 3 times. And you might think, well, that's going to sound really boring and really repetitive. But it doesn't. It actually works really well, because you're playing one phrase, but the chords that you're playing it over are changing as you move your way through the progression. So let's have a little listen to what that sounds like. Okay, so there I played 3 times the same lick, and it didn't get boring. It sounded different over each chord. So we played it once over the 1 chord, we played it once over the 4 chord, and then we played it once over the 5/4 chord in bars 9 and 10 of the 12-bar blues. And that wasn't me following the chord changes in any way whatsoever. I wasn't playing the root notes specifically. Now, I will have hit root notes, but I didn't change what note I was focusing on depending on what chord was being played. And it worked. So that's a really important thing to bear in mind. Another thing that you can do is you can play notes from the blues scale. So, blues scale, which I'm sure you've heard before. You can play those over the 12-bar blues and not even hit any root notes. So let's have a little listen to what that sounds like over the backing track. Okay, so it sounded a little bit weird because I didn't play any root notes whatsoever, but it still worked. None of the notes sounded awful. It all worked musically. And that's something that's really important to hold on to. It's this idea that if it sounds good or if it sounds right, then it is right. And you're going to find tons and tons of examples of great solos from great harmonica players that don't follow these rules. The only reason that we learn the rules is that they're a really easy way to get into improvising. Because if someone told you to improvise from the beginning and just said, you can do anything, you're probably just going to sit there and not play anything at all, because that's kind of overwhelming. But if someone then says to you, okay, you can play this note over this chord, this note over this chord, then suddenly it takes a lot of the decision making away from you, and makes it a little bit easier for you to concentrate on one aspect, for example, your rhythm. But as you get confident with that strategy, you need to start adding extra strategies in. That's really important. So let's have a little bit of a listen to how I would improvise kind of more naturally now. So I mix a lot of these strategies. So I will hit some root notes, but sometimes I'll think just about playing some nice phrases from the blues scale. And sometimes I'll hit other notes from the chords. So let's have a little listen to what that sounds like. Okay, so hopefully you can hear that there's a little bit of that root note targeting, there's a little bit of the blues scale strategy, I'm thinking about the rhythm of my phrases, and I'm thinking about a bunch of other things as well. And that's kind of what you're aiming for. You don't want to just play root notes. Root notes are great, but they are not the only thing to do. So that's the biggest takeaway that I want you to have from this. I want you to realize that root notes are great, but you don't just have to play root notes, okay? Excellent. Well, thank you for that. If you want to get some backing tracks and stuff, there's a link in the description below that you can click on to give you a bunch of backing tracks to practice improvising over and have a little noodle around, because that's the most important thing. It's just doing it. Noodle and play and get into your harmonica trance and just spend hours and hours and hours, and you'll start discovering things, and that discovery is really important. And before you head off and grab those backing tracks, you can give me a thumbs up by hitting the like button below, and you can also subscribe to my channel if you haven't done so already, because I put out a new harmonica lesson every single Wednesday. And one more thing before you run away, final thing, I promise. If you want to find out a little bit more about how to start improvising, if you're really struggling getting that first step, then why don't you check out my Introduction to Improvisation e-course, which is a 5-week-long course. It's a premium course, and it will introduce 5 different ideas to get you comfortable with the idea of improvising over a 12-bar blues. And by the end of it, you will be improvising, whatever level you are at. So give that a go. Click on the link in the description below. Right, I will see you next week. Thank you very much, and happy harping.